So you know in life, there are those things that you feel like everyone else just knows how to do straight out the womb, like changing a flat tire, doing your taxes, calculus, hustling people, talking to girls. I mean, things that you really think everyone knows. And then there's you, who has no clue about any of these things. And that for me was kind of like how the custom gun world felt like. So today we're gonna get to the bottom of it. If you know what you're doing and you know what you want, will that give you a leg up over someone who doesn't and who just goes for a kind of pre-done version of what a company thinks you might want? And we're talking about that in the Slimline Glock series today. So in front of me, we've got the Glock 43X. It is custom modified by myself. And it's no longer my gun. It is a friend of the channel. His name is Caleb. He will be featured shooting in this video, whether he likes it or not. And on my left, on my right, but your left, I have the Shadow Systems CR920. And this one I just picked up. You know, new gun laws, bills being proposed in Minnesota legislature, so I had to go and pick myself up a panic gun and convince myself that I could do a YouTube video and benefit from it that way. So it was a good purchase until I shot it. No, I'm just kidding. It's totally fine. But today we're gonna go over the nitty-gritty details of whether you should settle for something like this or whether you should start with a bone stock Glock, work your way up, or just do it all at one time if you really know what you're doing, really know what you want, and what those differences are gonna get you tangibly. So let us begin. Now, before I go into this gun has probably about 1,000 rounds through it, maybe more, I would assume, because it's been through 3 owners thus far. My buddy bought it, he sold it to me, I did it up and I modified it, then I sold it to my other buddy, Caleb. So it's been in the ether for about 1.5 years now. Plenty of time to shoot rounds for it, plenty of time to break it in is kind of what I'm trying to lead on to. This gun is bone stock, bone brand, bone new. The trigger, everything is just like stiff. It's dead stock, if you will. And that is one of the first things that I really noticed out of the box. And a lot of people complain about the Shadow Systems triggers, more specifically their Slimline. And yeah, man, that trigger leaves a lot to be desired. I would change it out. Like I noticed myself on my first shots with the pistol, bracing up and then thought I was about to break the trigger, and so I was dipping down. It's really heavy and really creepy. There's not a great wall. Once you hit the wall, you still got some travel to go. And with the 43X, I would say it might be about maybe a ½ pound lighter, ½ pound to full pound lighter, but the wall is crisp and defined. Once you break it, there's no over travel. It's not messy. When you reset, reset's pretty shit, actually. Let me try this. Yeah, they're both pretty weak resets, so a lot of trigger slapping, not really knowing exactly where to go with that. Before we really dive in, I'm gonna talk about what I did to the 43X and what makes it custom. So basically, we've got aftermarket iron sights from Ameriglow. These are night sights with tritium in them, blacked out rear. Really love these sights. I like orange fronts better than green fronts, actually. Unless it's fiber optic, then I do like green. I did a custom stipple job, full wrap, did some undercutting, a double undercut, so there's room here to purchase higher and room here to get your finger in. I stippled underneath here as well. That's one of my favorite spots to stipple because no one releases guns with texture underneath the trigger guard, and I think that I need a lot of texture so I can really wedge down and vise into my grip. Also put some stippling on the support thumb side. And yeah, really enjoyed that. Threw a Katana magwell on there. It is wiggly, and the set screw is as tight as it can be. I just noticed that wiggle, so I don't know about that. Don't really like that. Might be a quality control issue with Katana, or it could just be a wear and tear thing. We've got the Shield S15 mag release, the Shield mag release. One thing with this is, ooh, yeah, I got it. You really have to do the John Wick kind of, you know, once you're empty, you gotta do that mag flip to get the mags out. Otherwise, even if you're straight up, that's a downside of this gun, but that's all that's been done to it. It used to have an optic on it, took it off because Some screws were going loose for Caleb, and also it makes this comparison more fair. We're going to talk about shootability. We're going to talk about carrying experience. We're going to talk about value for the price and what you get. And I'm going to stop waving a gun around. So I am going to start us off talking about the shooting experience. Got first rounds through this one. Got more rounds through this one. It feels extremely different in the hand. Obviously, the only way that this becomes fair is if I use the 13 round magazine for the shadow systems, because then you get a full fighting grip if you're a small boy like me, because I got small hands. For guys with really big hands, sometimes even this might not be enough for your full hand. But if you compare these, and I'll do some close-ups, I think without the magwell, you're really splitting hairs. Yeah, I mean, obviously slide upper characteristics are gonna be nearly identical. I did do barrel swaps in the two of them. Barrel swaps work just fine. Now, Shadow Systems did have problems with the Gen 1 release of the CR920. They fixed it with their butt barrel as problems were coming up with the barrel design. Again, to even the playing field with my Shadow Systems, it's bone stock, except I did a little more of an undercut underneath the trigger guard, as well as I stippled underneath the trigger guard before we went to the range. But shooting the Glock 43X, the Glock 43X has a bigger back hump. And with the 19 and the full size line, I hate that back hump. But with their slim line, it just molds into the rear of my thumb in a way that I feel like the gun's meatier than it is. I think also me with having small hands, it's the perfect amount of girth that a pistol grip can have for me. With the Shadow Systems gun, you're getting a more 1911 grip angle, so there's not really as much of a hump, and it's more of an upright gun. What I believe that does is potentially give you a slightly higher bore axis, which means that the bore where the ignition is happening is slightly higher than it is on the Glock 43X when you're holding it in your hand, which also can translate to more felt recoil. But again, I think for me the biggest difference is having that chunk towards the bottom of your hand to fill in with the 43X to add extra stability on the firing hand. So we did bill drills. Draw from concealment, 6 rounds at 7 yards. Accuracy and tempo were far greater with the 43X. The biggest difference that I felt was gonna be, I have to say, trigger. I was able to run the trigger faster on the 43X. So if we were doing a trigger swap, or if I were to get like a Johnny Glock's trigger on the Shadow Systems, maybe it would change that. Maybe I could shoot it faster. Maybe my recoil control would be a little worse though, because again, I just feel like I have more control over this gun. In single fire, we were kind of splitting hairs as I was getting used to how this one shoots. I was having to apply a lot more thumb pressure, so kind of pushing in with my left thumb to correct for a left leaning shooting, which is obviously just probably from my flinching. But I was just a bit more accurate with the 43X, able to actually shoot where I wanted to go. When Caleb was shooting the both of them, he was surprised at how little surface area and real estate he had to grip the gun. One issue that some shooters have is, especially ones with bigger hands, is that when they shoot the pistol, their grip will either cause the slide to lock open after shooting it, or it'll cause it to not lock back on empty. I had it lock open on, I think, like the 3rd or 4th round that I shot. And then after that, I shot another almost 100 rounds and wasn't able to replicate that issue again. So don't know what really happened there. And it was weird that it only happened one time. But I will continue to see about the CR920, see if that continues to be a problem down the road. Moving on from shootability, I'm gonna talk about modifications, what you get for the bang for the buck. With the CR920, this was about $700 after taxes. Doesn't come with an optic cut. With the Glock 43 MOS and the modifications, I think that puts me up into the 850 to 900s. I'll do the math on the screen for you because I don't have access to those numbers right now. If I could choose and do it all over again, I think I'd still go with this, and I'll give you the reasons why. So when you're talking about going either a manufactured specified like package route versus modding out your own gun, doing some custom stuff on it, I think I'm shooting in 60 FPS. Shadow Systems in particular, they'll send you a new gun if you have to use this in self-defense. Glock certainly won't, especially if I have modifications done to it. Also, companies like Shadow Systems, where they focus on practical upgrades, practical things that a shooter is actually gonna need. I guess the only like cosmetic thing is like barrel and some line geometry and designs. Companies that focus on really practical upgrades, like better grips, like better iron sights, With the barrel coating, you get better durability, better mag capacity than like the 43 or even the 43X stock. So you're getting all this stuff from the manufacturer. You know it's backed to some degree by warranty. And then when you start venturing into your own territory, sure, it's more fun. It's more like Legos, but analyze from different optics in a different way if you have to use it in self-defense. Now you get a custom gun. Okay, well, why did you add all of these upgrades? You have to be able to articulate that confidently and in a way that doesn't make you seem like you are out to shoot. Also, the further away you move from stock, the more greater chances there are of you losing reliability. So especially in the tight tolerance gun world like 1911s, 2011s, when you make an upgrade, a lot of times you have to build back reliability with a different upgrade. Glocks are more drop-in and more kind of set it and forget it, but I have had some issues with Glocks before. So you're buying peace of mind with something like the Shadow Systems. Certainly you do have the option to go away from how they designed it and to add your own mods. I can change out the sights, I can cut it for an optic, I can change colors, I can change triggers maybe, I can add a light. That's not really like a custom thing though, just a practical mod. So if I were you, I would start with a good point. Like you get the Glock 43X and start shooting at stock. At least for me, knowing that there's so much more it could be, I would be unhappy with that, like genuinely unhappy. And that's why I changed this the second I bought it. But this gun, I'm content with how it is right now. I know there are things I can do to it to make it better and more ideal, but it is fine. I like looking at it still. It's not ugly to look at. It's not horrible to shoot. The controls are usable. So just food for thought. Ongoing custom, saving money on the gun itself and then spending more money likely in the future on modifications versus spending a little bit more money on the gun itself and then potentially saving all of the money on modifications. My carry gun, my super small gun, is serving the role of concealability and maximum concealability at that. This gun is not as fun to carry. Obviously the magwell, you could take that off and then you would be printing a little bit less just because of the geometry of it and how it kind of encourages a little bit of a poke outside of your shirt. It's a little bit heavier as well, and the grip angle and the hump just makes it want to stick out a little bit more than the Shadow Systems here. So I prefer carrying this when I'm trying to be really discreet, and then I have the option to throw in the 10-round mag. I don't know where that went. Maximize concealability for me. Comparing grip texture, I really like Shadow Systems grip texture. I had an CR920 and then I totally dremeled out that texture and then just did my own stippling, and I actually like the stock texturing better than what I did on the CR920. I like it equally as much as I like the 43X's texture. I think mine on the Shadow Systems might be a little more abrasive at certain angles, so it's more consistently grippy. What I've noticed with my hand stippling is that over time it gets less and less and less grippy for some reason, almost as if it's like sanding down over time, but Shadow Systems and factory grip texturing typically does a good job of holding up on its own. Sighting systems, I would swap sights. I do like the Ameriglows better. However, I know that these sights are perfectly zeroed. When I install sights, I don't use like a proper sighting tool normally, so I'm just kind of hammer and punching it. And then I ding up my sights and they look like crap. So I'm probably not gonna change these out. I'm fine with not having an optic on this gun. I'm getting back into the world of iron sights a little bit more. I took the optic off of my Springfield Prodigy, and I think I'm selling my Glock 19. So I'm gonna be the iron sight pistol boy for a while. Yeah, subscribe to see more content down the road because I'm doing a project. If you've seen John Wick 4, the pistol he uses in that movie is called the Pit Viper. I'm doing a project to DIY my own. I'm calling it the Shit Viper. And it's basically gonna be as close as you can get to achieving that level on a budget and with some elbow grease and TLC. Cosmetically, I'm torn. I love the bronze barrel. I love the serrations on the Shadow Systems as opposed to Glock, but I do like magwells and I do like full wrap stippling and I do like orange sights. So I don't know, I'm kind of torn on looks. I guess just because of the barrel, I would pick this, but if I swap barrels, I'd probably pick this. I think the trigger on the Shadow Systems looks better. It just feels like absolute grit. And so that is kind of one downside. They do say that you have a 200 round break-in period. I shot about 100 rounds. I had 0 malfunctions except for the slide locking back. Nothing ignition related that went wrong, nothing feeding related that went wrong. So really good marks on that because we're still in the break-in period, but we didn't see any malfunctions. So I am confident carrying this gun already. Part of that and part of what plays into that is going to be what kind of ammunition you use. So that brings us to today's sponsored Thank you to Nautilus Ammunition. They sponsored this and many other videos by sending me ammunition to use and test in different guns. And so all the range footage you see today was using either Nautilus or some of Caleb's ammo. Now, Caleb's ammo didn't malfunction, but he pays for the nice stuff. He gets some good, high-quality Winchester rounds. Although Winchester White Box is not known to be the highest quality, Nautilus Ammunition's quality of ammunition is something that I stand by, both in their 223 and their 9mm. They also have released 9mm hollow points, as well as 300 Blackout Subsonics. I have yet to try both of those. I look forward to the day that I do. They offer subscription services where they deliver ammunition with free shipping every month to your door, and if you use code Marksman5, you can save 5% off your order of $100 more at nautilusammunition.com. So thank you guys again for supporting the channel and sponsoring this video. Doing reviews and comparisons, testing out shooting wouldn't be possible without your guys' help. Some people say changing a trigger on a gun, upgrading to a competition trigger or something like that isn't going to give you much. You're not going to see tangible benefits. And I think I kind of agree with that. I think triggers they reach a point of diminishing returns. That ceiling is pretty low. Like for example, my stock Prodigy trigger, really good. Slow controlled fire, I can keyhole and I can stack shots. If I were to swap out for a really high quality competition trigger at 1 or 2 pounds, I wouldn't see any positive impact on slow fire. However, I might see a positive impact on my bill drills or really fast shooting because less pressure, less reset, firmer, just blah, 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 blah. I think the same thing applies. You get really marginal results when you upgrade a good trigger to a perfect trigger. However, I think you get good results when you upgrade a bad trigger to a good or even just mediocre stock trigger. That is something that's kind of on my mind. There are other folks out there who do say don't upgrade a trigger on your carry gun, and I have been thinking about that. But overall, I'm gonna stick with this gun. I'm happy with it. Not as excited as I am about my shit Viper though. So if you guys are here for the first time, please, thank you. Thank you for coming by. Subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of more fun content coming out there, like my 2011 stuff, as well as I'm gonna be coming out with a specific review on this gun. I did share a lot of my thoughts about it today. I think we're gonna focus future content on this, more about long-term reliability and putting higher round counts down on it. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for spending time with me. Please like, share, subscribe, comment in the section below, and we'll see you in the next one.